Welcome back to Power Play. Today we're hearing from an Alberta NDP MLA who's stepping down before finishing her term over concerns in part of polarization and disinformation. Shannon Phillips was first elected in that province back in 2015 and says she'll resign her seat as of July 1st. Her decision also comes after Alberta's law enforcement watchdog determined two police officers who disagreed with Phillips' politics were inappropriately surveilling her back in 2017. In May, Phillips learned the Provincial Prosecution Service declined to pursue criminal charges. And Shannon Phillips is with us live now. Hi, Ms. Phillips. Good to have you here. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
I was reading in the Globe today your interview about this decision, and one line in particular stood out. I'm the next in a line of women politicians who are taking a pass. Why is that?
Well, for me, I think it was just simply time. As you know, there is a leadership race happening, and while I'm perfectly comfortable with any of the outcomes, the fact is that one chapter is closing here in Alberta, and another chapter then closing for me. And so there's no question that this was a difficult decision, but it was the right decision for me at this time.
Are there certain things that setting aside the big thing that you had to deal with, obviously, and we'll get to that in a second with those police officers, are there things as a female politician, I think you went on to say that conditions are essentially not improving, that you had to deal with that you kind of are over, if that makes sense?
There's no question that things are not improving. And there's responsibility for that, and it's borne by, I believe, the right, not necessarily the party infrastructure, but just the tone and the coarsening of politics. But for me personally, that was amped up by all of these years and years of LPS misconduct. And it wasn't just two officers. There were initial two in 2017. There were two that were found to have likely committed criminal acts or enough to move forward with the recommendation for prosecution in 2018. There were others that were engaged in other forms of misconduct. I, at one point, received anonymous correspondence into my office, into my constituency office, about even more misconduct happening within the Lethbridge Police Service. So there's no question there was a lot. It built up over time. And so I had very specific circumstances. But layered on top of that, I think, was all of our inability to kind of deal with the ongoing polarization within politics and the effect that has and the toll that takes on women politicians in particular, not all exclusively women, but it is often them. And that goes for our parties, our legislative assemblies, our law enforcement, everyone. We seem just entirely unable to grapple with I would say the rise of incivility, the dissolution of guardrails, and just the absence of any rules around acceptable ways to interact with public officials and with ideas. And ultimately, we've seen that degrade since my time in government. I don't know if we are seeing it improve, and I don't think I see a level of seriousness in how to fix it.
Why do you think that seriousness is lacking? Not that it's up to you to figure out, the why to all of it, but just based on your experience, do you have a sense of why the will to fix it seems to be lacking?
I think within parties, it is difficult to deal with because it's hard to know what's real and what's bots, what's one voice being unnecessarily amplified, what's legitimate questions and grounds for intervention and what we might be doing as a government, and what crosses the line. I also think, too, that there is a hesitancy to make politics about the politicians. And I have been one of those people who has pushed back against that. When I was in government, especially, I did not want to talk about any of this because I wanted to talk about the work and the things that we were accomplishing. And so that definitely makes it difficult. And I'm speaking here of some broader circumstances and then some that were unique to my situation. And then we have just I think, a broader cultural problem here, where when women in public life or in the public eye are harassed or followed or anything, law enforcement will come to you and they'll say, "Oh yeah, you're probably okay." And that's,
Really?
usually, well, I mean, my case was different because I couldn't trust what law enforcement was telling me. But, there was never any sense of any real protocols, any real processes when these things happen. And I think that's why legislatures need to involve themselves. I think that's why we need to actually be serious about the processes. And we need to just learn how to grapple with it because it's a big problem. It's a social problem. It's a problem of the information environment, the media environment. To your previous topic, likely hostile foreign actors as well, on some level involved. It's just really hard to know. And I would argue that went into government in 2015 and started facing some of this pretty well right away. We're now 9 years on. We should probably get our heads around it.
I just have about a minute left. I wondered if I could conclude by asking you about the stakes as far as, and I know it's not exclusive to female politicians, but obviously your experience and Pam Damoff and a whole bunch of others lately is. I wondered if you could reflect for a moment on the stakes of fewer women getting into politics because of something like this.
I don't. I certainly wouldn't be a person who would encourage fewer women to go into politics. I've spent my entire life doing the exact opposite. But I will say that this is our democracy at stake, folks. And so we need to figure out ways to restore decency, to restore civility, figure out how to disagree without being disagreeable. And those are big challenges. I don't think that we're up to them right now. We haven't quite figured it out. And there's a big road ahead in untangling all of that and restoring the guardrails of a liberal democracy and it's worth fighting for.
I'll leave it on that note. I really appreciate you making the time for the conversation tonight. Thanks, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you.